not with us this morning. I was able to see some friends of ours yesterday. First time we've seen them in a very long time. You know, people are getting their shots, coming out of their homes. It was good to see them. Good to see all of you here, whether it's in the morning or the afternoon or the evening. We're glad you're here. I have awakened in thy shelter, oh my God, and it becometh in that seeketh that shelter to abide within the sanctuary of thy protection and the stronghold of thy defense. Illumine my inner being, oh my Lord, with the splendors of the day spring of thy revelation, even as thou didst illumine my heart being with the morning light of thy favor. Illumine my inner being, oh my Lord, with the splendors of the day spring of thy revelation, even as thou didst illumine my heart being with the morning light of thy favor. Good morning, everyone. Glad you can join us. And if I'm not mistaken, we've got our camera, our Facebook camera a little closer, so I can see people now. And I see that Nini is joining us. She's down in West Palm. We're so glad that you could join us this morning, Nini.
Good morning,
Good morning,
Nini.
sweetheart. It's wonderful to see that you're here. We wish you could be here, but we're glad that you're there. Now, folks, if you joined us last week, then you know that we kind of switched gears a little bit from the spiritual teachings of Baha'u'llah, even though we're still, again, using the same book, Baha'u'llah's teachings on spiritual reality. We have gotten several messages from people, frankly, from around the world, who wonder, what book are you reading? What book are you reading? And this is the book, again, Baha'u'llah's teachings on spiritual reality. Gilbert's joining us. Good morning, Gilbert, in the Zoom stream. And it's again a compilation of different writings from the faith, some from Baha'u'llah, some from Abdul Baha, some from Shoghi Effendi, and even some from the Universal House of Justice. And as you know, Daryl, the book is divided into topics of spiritual significance and very moving. But it's also, as we got deeper and deeper into the book, we keep talking about the writings of Baha'u'llah, and of course, some people out there, I'm sure we're wondering, or maybe still are wondering, who is this Baha'u'llah? Yeah. So last week we decided that what we would do is, there is a portion in the book that actually, it's called at the very beginning, The Life and Teachings of Baha'u'llah. And so last week we actually covered a portion of this, and we're going to finish today. I think that we'll be able to finish with this today. But it was primarily about, Baha'u'llah's revelation. And when he first, I'm not sure I can find the words. I don't know.
He declared his mission.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. So when he declared his mission and how he received his mission in the prison, the Siachal. And so we're going to continue this. Daryl, now last week when we ended with Baha'u'llah's description of what happened to him when he was in prison. And we have these in his own words, and it's pointed out that one of the hallmarks of the Baha'i writings, or in this revelation, is because it is so recent, we actually have the actual words of the manifestation of God. And we actually have the description as stated by the manifestation of God. So before we continue forward, Daryl, I was wondering if after we have a brief prayer, if you might want to start out, even though we ended with that paragraph, that during the days I lay.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. But let's have a brief prayer first. Make firm our steps, O Lord, in thy path, and strengthen thou our hearts in thine obedience. Turn our faces toward the beauty of thy oneness, and gladden our bosoms with the signs of thy divine unity. Adorn our bodies with the robe of thy bounty, and remove from our eyes the veil of sinfulness, and give us the chalice of thy grace, that the essence of all beings may sing thy praise before the vision of thy grandeur. Revealed in thyself, O Lord, by thy merciful utterance and the mystery of thy divine being, that the holy ecstasy of prayer may fill our souls, a prayer that shall rise above words and letters and transcend the murmur of syllables and sounds, that all things may be merged into nothingness before the revelation of thy splendor. Lord, these are thy servants that have remained fast and firm in thy covenant and thy testament, that have held fast unto the cord of constancy in thy cause and clung unto the hem of the robe of thy grandeur. Assist them, O Lord, with thy grace, confirm with thy power, and strengthen their loins in obedience to thee. Thou art the pardoner, the gracious. And this is a prayer by Abdul Baha. So again, what we're going to be doing today is continuing talking about the life of Baha'u'llah. And again, this is an extremely, extremely abbreviated history, but still, for considering what we're doing and what we're teaching, I think the abbreviated way is probably the better way to go, because let's face it, we could spend a lifetime studying the life of Baha'u'llah and still not fully cover it. So, Daryl, if you'd please.
So this first passage is from Baha'u'llah while he is in the prison. During the days I lay in the prison of Tehran, though the galling weight of the chains and the stench-filled air allowed me but little sleep, still in those infrequent moments of slumber, I felt as if something flowed from the crown of my head over my breast, even as a mighty torrent that precipitated itself upon the earth from the summit of a lofty mountain. Every limb of my body would, as a result, be set afire. At such moments, my tongue reciteth what no man could bear to hear.
Now we're going to be looking at a period of exile that Baha'u'llah went through. One thing you need to understand is that Baha'u'llah, as a result of his mission and as a result of his involvement in first the Bab's mission, his herald, he was involved in that mission. And then once the Bab was tortured and executed, Baha'u'llah was one of those that was, again, thrown into prison. And he went through various periods of imprisonment and exile. So even when he wasn't literally in prison,
right,
he was exiled. And all of this time, he never wavered. He still continued to reveal the word of God for this day. So Darrell, if you want to continue.
And these are passages about his exile. Eventually, still without a trial or recourse, Baha'u'llah was released from prison and immediately banished from his native land to the neighboring territory of Iraq, then under the rule of the Ottoman Empire. This expulsion was the beginning of 40 years of exile, imprisonment, and bitter persecution. In 1863, Baha'u'llah concluded that the time had come to begin acquainting some of those around him with the mission which had been entrusted to him in the darkness of the Sia Chal, which was the prison, the previous prison. This decision coincided with a new stage in the campaign of opposition to his work, which had been relentlessly pursued by the Shia Muslim Kurd. This decision coincided with the new stage in the campaign of opposition to his work, which had been relentlessly pursued by the Shia Muslim clergy and representatives of the Persian government. Fearing that the acclaim which Baha'u'llah was beginning to enjoy among influential Persian visitors to Iraq would reignite popular enthusiasm in Persia, the Shah's government pressed the Ottoman authorities to remove him far from the borders and into the interior of the empire. Eventually, the Turkish government acceded to these pressures and invited the exile as its guest to make his residence in the capital, Constantinople. Despite the courteous terms in which the message was couched, the intention was clearly to require the compliance.
So, I can't help seeing the similarities between the story we know of Jesus, how, religious leaders pretty much, I guess, collaborated, it might not be the right word, but enlisted the help of government officials.
Absolutely.
To have their will be done and to attempt to thwart the new messenger of God, primarily because they felt that their power was threatened. I don't know, you feel like doing a song?
Sure.
Now, as you know, Darrell just finished reading about Baha'u'llah's imprisonment and in the Sia Chal. And this song rather. Maybe I should just go ahead and sing the song. Let me tell you all the story about Baha'u'llah. He was humble, he was holy, the glory of God. But they took him and they chained him, good morning, Farah, in a prison underground, in that dark and dirty Sia Chal. They took him 3 flights down. Oh, they had my Lord in shackles, he was tortured and bound. Down those dark and narrow stairways, there was trouble all around, with the weight of heavy chains carried down. But God said, my child, I will deliver you from three flights down. They took you three flights down. That prison underground, one way in, one way out. There no joy could be found, but he had God on his side, and he was already found. But God said, my child, I will deliver you from three flights down. Every time there's enemies, they thought that they had won. No matter just how bad it seemed, their plans would come undone. When it seemed like times were darkest, like evil was gonna win, the omnipotent, the all-bountiful would step right on there. They took every lies down. Prison underground, one way in, one way out. Where no joy could be found, and God on his side, and he was already found. And God said, my child, I will deliver you from three flights down. Now sunshine follows shadow, dawn follows night. The doings of the wrong are overcome by right. As God can bring us happiness and take away our pain, He gave my Lord the victory, and in triumph now He reigns. They took every flights down in that prison underground, one way in, one way out. Where would they bound? But he had God on his side, and he was already found. And God said, my child, I will deliver you from three flights down. They took him three flights down. In that prison underground, one way in, one way out. Where no joy could be found, and God on his side, and he was already found. And God said, my child, I will deliver you from three flights down. So when your soul feels heavy, when there's trouble all around, just think about the Bahá'í, that prison underground. God is on your side, and it knows no bounds, and he can lift you out of trouble when you're feeling like you're free. Lights down, they took every lights down. Prison underground, one way in, one way out. Where no joy could be found, but he had God on his side, and he was already found. And God said, my child, I will deliver you from three flights down. Yes, he said, my child, I will deliver you from three flights down. And you know it did deliver my Lord from three flights down. Three flights down. Three flights down. Three flights flights down,
3 flights down,
3 flights down. For anyone who wonders, I don't know if it covered it in the text where, you know, that term 3 flights down is because that prison that he was in had only one way in and one way out. There was only one way to go in and out. And it was three flights of stairs underground. And so that's what inspired that song. So Daryl, you want to pick it up from where we left off?
Sure. In late April 1863, Baha'u'llah, on the eve of his departure for Constantinople, called together individuals among his companions in a garden which was later given the name of Rizwan, or paradise, and confided the central fact of his mission. Over the next 4 years, although no open announcement was considered timely, the hearers gradually shared with trusted friends the news that the Bab's promises had been fulfilled and that the day of God had dawned. The conditions surrounding Baha'u'llah's departure from Baghdad provided a dramatic demonstration of the potency of these principles. In only a few years, a band of foreign exiles whose arrival in the area had aroused suspicion and aversion on the part of their neighbors had become one of the most respected and influential segments of the population. They supported themselves through flourishing businesses. As a group, they were admired for their generosity and the integrity of their conduct. The lurid allegations of religious fanaticism and violence sedulously spread by the Persian consular officials and members of the Shia Muslim clergy had ceased to have an effect on the public mind. By May of 1863, when he rode out of Baghdad, accompanied with his family and those of his companions and servants who had been chosen to accompany him to Constantinople, Baha'u'llah had become an immensely popular and cherished figure. In the days immediately preceding the leave-taking, a stream of notables, including the governor of the province himself, came to the garden where he had temporarily taken up residence, many of them from great distances, in order to pay their respects. Eyewitnesses to the departure have described in moving terms the acclaim that greeted him, the tears of many of the onlookers, and the concern of the Ottoman authorities and civil officials to do their visitor honor. Soon after the exiles' arrival in Constantinople, it became apparent that the honors showered upon Baha'u'llah during his journey from Baghdad had represented only a brief interlude. The Ottoman authorities' decision to move him and his companions to the capital of the empire rather than to some remote province deepened the alarm among the representatives of the Persian government. Now, they had already decided to move him. Now they're having second thoughts about it. Fearing the developments in Baghdad would be repeated, the Persian ambassador pressed insistently for the dispatch of the exiles to some more distant part of the empire. So they realized that moving him to inland was not necessarily the brightest thing that they could have done. The place chosen for this final banishment was the grim fortress town of Akka, or Acre, on the coast of the Holy Land. Notorious throughout the empire for the foulness of its climate and the prevalence of many diseases, Acre was a penal colony used by the Ottoman state for the incarceration of dangerous criminals who could be expected not to survive too long in their imprisonment there. Arriving in August 1868, Baha'u'llah, the members of his family, and a company of his followers who had been exiled with him were to experience 2 years of suffering and abuse within the fortress itself, and then be confined under house arrest to a nearby building owned by a local merchant. For a long time, the exiles were shunned by the superstitious local populace who had been warned in public sermons against the God of the Persians.
That's in quotes.
That was in quotes. The God of the Persians is who they're calling Baha'u'llah, who was depicted as an enemy of public order and the purveyor of blasphemous and immoral ideas. Several members of the small group of exiles died of the privations and other conditions to which they were subjected. Now, Acre, this prison colony, the air was said to be so foul that birds flying overhead would drop out of the sky and fall to their deaths. That's how foul the air was. So people weren't expected to survive in this area either.
I'm gonna do a short version here. There was a light.
There was a light
Shining in Akka.
shining in Akka.
There was a light.
There was a light
Shone all around.
shone all around.
A new revelation.
New revelation.
God's loving guidance.
God's loving guidance.
One holy light. It lit up the night. The words streaming down. One prison cell,
One prison cell
made oh so holy,
made oh so holy.
God's revelation,
God's revelation.
there in the dark,
There in the dark.
the Son of Truth,
This Son of Truth.
this blessed beauty,
Oh, this blessed beauty.
bringing God's love from up above into our hearts. And there was a light
There was a light
shining in our love.
shining in our God.
There was a light.
There was a light
Shone all around.
shone all around.
A new revelation. God's loving guidance. One holy light. It lit up the night. The world streaming down. One holy light. It lit up the night. The world streaming down. One holy light. It lit up the night. The word streaming down. A light shining in Akka. Well,
I think you should read.
you think I should read? You've been doing a lot of reading. I want to say hello. I saw Joan's name there, and I saw William that joins us in the Friday night call. I saw his name, so I just want to say to the on the Facebook stream, hello. Well, you've heard enough. Well, I'm not going to say you've heard enough, but Daryl has read about the trials and tribulations, as is often said, that Baha'u'llah went through, the struggles and so forth. Why did he go through these things? Well, like every manifestation of God, Baha'u'llah is bringing new teachings. The manifestations of God are often described as physicians and teachers. Yes, physicians to help correct the ills of society if we will follow their teachings. And so they are seen as physicians as well as teachers. And so this next segment is about Baha'u'llah's teachings for humanity. Central to Baha'u'llah's writings is an exposition of the great themes which have preoccupied religious thinkers throughout the ages. God, the role of revelation in history, the relationship of the world's religious systems to one another, the meaning of faith, and the basis of moral authority in the organization of human society. Passages in these texts speak intimately of his own spiritual experience, of his response to the divine summons, and that's in capitals because it's coming from God, to the divine summons, and of the dialogue with the Spirit of God, and that also is in quotes and capitals, and of the dialogue with the Spirit of God, which lay at the heart of his mission. Religious history has never before offered the inquirer the opportunity for so candid an encounter with the phenomenon of divine revelation. In June 1877, Baha'u'llah at last emerged from the strict confinement of the prison city of Akka and moved with his family to Mazrai, a small estate a few miles north of the city. After a brief 2-year stay at Mazrai, Baha'u'llah moved to Baji, a large mansion surrounded by gardens, which his son Abdul Baha had rented for him and the members of his extended family. The remaining 12 years of his life were devoted to his writing on a wide range of spiritual and social issues, and to receiving a stream of Baha'i pilgrims who made their way with great difficulty from Persia and other lands. Throughout the Near and Middle East, the nucleus of a community life was beginning to take shape among those who had accepted his message. For its guidance, Baha'u'llah had revealed a system of laws and institutions designed to give practical effect to the principles of his writings. Authority was vested in councils democratically elected by the whole community. Provisions were made to exclude the possibility of a clerical elite arising, and principles of consultation and group decision-making were established. Every time I read this paragraph, I think of one phrase, and the government shall be upon his shoulders.
Yeah.
At the heart of the system was what Baha'u'llah termed a new covenant between God and humankind. The distinguishing feature of humanity's coming of age is that for the first time in history, the entire human race is consciously involved, however dimly, in the awareness of its own oneness and of the earth as a single homeland. This awakening opens the way to a new relationship between God and humankind. As the peoples of the world embrace the spiritual authority inherent in the guidance of the revelation of God for this age, Baha'u'llah said, they will find in themselves a moral empowerment which human effort alone has proven incapable of generating. A new race of men will emerge as the result of this relationship, and the work of building a global civilization will begin. The mission of the Baha'i community is to demonstrate the efficacy of this covenant in healing the ills that divide the human race. Baha'u'llah.
Wait, say that last sentence again.
Okay. But Are
The
we doing
mission
on
of the
time?
Baha'i community.
I'm gonna say this is the one before that and that.
Okay.
A new race of men will emerge as the result of this relationship, and the work of building a global civilization will begin. The mission of the Baha'i community is to demonstrate the efficacy of this covenant in healing the ills that will divide the human race. Little child, don't you worry about the trouble that you see. Gonna be a new race, new race of men. Gonna be a new race of men. Child, don't you cry, one day, gonna be a new race of men, gonna be a new race of men. Can't you see that from the east shines a bright light, bringing peace? A new day, brand new light, end of darkness, no more night. New race of man, race of man, race of man, new race of man, new race of man, race of man, new race of man, race of man. Little child, see the sun, bringing justice, mankind will be new race of man, race of man. Gonna be a new race of man. Little child, hear what I say. There's really gonna be better days. New race of man, new race of man, race of man. Gonna be a new race of man. Can't you see that from the east sky, a bright light breaking peace? A new day, a brand new light, end of darkness, no more night, and a new race of man, race of man, a new race of man, a new race of man, new race of man, race of man, new race of man, race of man. Little child, don't worry about the trouble that you see. Gonna be a new race of man. Gonna be a new race of man. Gonna be a new race of man. A new race of man. A new race of man. We haven't done that in forever. That was kind of an impulse. That phrase jumped out. Now to finish with this brief history of Baha'u'llah. You want to finish?
No, go ahead.
Oh, please. Baha'u'llah died at Baji on May 29, 1829, in his 75th year. I did it again. Where did I go? My temporary dyslexia is kicking in. I'm sorry. Let's start that all over again. Baha'u'llah died at Baji. Good looking out, by the way. Baha'u'llah died at Baji on May 29, 1892, in his 75th year. At the time of his passing, the cause entrusted to him 40 years earlier in the darkness of Tehran's Black Pit was poised to break free of the Islamic lands where it had taken shape and to establish itself first across America and Europe and then throughout the world. In doing so, it would itself become a vindication of the promise of the new covenant between God and humankind. For alone of all the world's independent religions, the Baha'i faith and its community of believers were to pass successfully through the critical first century of their existence with their unity firmly intact, undamaged by the age-old blight of schism and faction. Their experience offers compelling evidence for Baha'u'llah's assurance that the human race, in all its diversity, can learn to live and work as one people in a common global homeland. Told you should read it. Gets to me.
Big baby.
It's a beautiful thought, though.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
At this time, we're going to start. We're going to, at this time, if anyone would like to offer up a prayer or reading or song of your choosing. And of course, we always like to start with our Cambies moment. So Cambies?
Yes.
I'm going to put it in the form of a request as always. Do you have something for us to share with us today, Cambies?
Sure.
Wonderful. Cambies. I'm going to grab the camera.
این حالیست تو غرس نمودی ازم تا رساب رحمت آبشته تویی آن کریمی که عصیان عالم تو را از کرم من ننمود و از بدایع فضلت باز نداشت تویی که جودت وجود را موجود فرمود و افق اعلی راه نمود عبادت را از صراط مستقیم من مفرما تویی قادر و توانا
Thank you, Camby.
You're welcome.
He has such an amazing voice to me.